Early season is a phase of the hunting calendar that bow hunters dream of. After watching pictures of horns grow week by week and month by month, it's hard not to count down the days. Acres of cornfields and beans dress the hillsides and bottoms in September in the Midwest. Nebraska and Kentucky are two of my favorite early season states to hunt. And during this time of year, there are several factors that I considered as I map out my game plan. The moon, food source locations, bedding areas, transition zones, deer patterns, and yes, the wind. Early season pictures and feeding patterns have led us to an alfalfa field near a bedding area where a mature 9-point is consistently coming to. Our best strategy is to set up a redneck bail blind to get close to this deer. As I prepared for this hunt, I noticed the weather was going to be unseasonably cold, rainy at times, and yes, windy, potentially impacting deer movement. After several days of 40 to 50 degree rain and windy weather, it finally clears. Checking the cameras, we noticed the big 9 has moved to another area where I actually killed a big management buck the season before. We set up a family traditions tree stand in this bottom that is a great transition zone between a cornfield and an alfalfa field where this buck is now showing up. Our last night in Nebraska, we go back to the bottom knowing the big 9 is still in the area. As the minutes click away, I keep looking back to the area where the buck I harvested last year came from, hoping the big 9 would follow the same path as the buck did last year and giving me a shot before we lose light. As darkness begins to close, I realize I won't be filling my Nebraska early season tag. $50,000-year-old stone arrowheads from the African plains prove that archery has helped mankind survive from the very beginning. These amazingly lethal primitive wooden bows were embraced and improved by every society and helped guide the course of history in every age. In 1929, the legendary Fred Bear began hunting with a bow carved from an $8 Osage orange stave. This fueled his passion to start Bear Archery Company and kick-started today's archery industry. Modern evolution is being led by companies like Elite Archery that build bows that are renowned for being the most shootable bows in the world based on 6 factors. The Elite bow design spreads draw effort over a wider range. Peak draw weight arrives later in the cycle, thus increasing the ease of draw. Quicker cam roll-off of the Elite bow decreases the shooter's peak draw weight time requirement. Dual draw stops result in a solid back wall for consistent performance, and their cam's huge dwell zone allows extensive forward creep before ripping the arrow out of your hands. Lastly, Elite Bow's industry low levels of hand shock enhance the Elite shooting experience. I head to Kentucky to hunt on good friend Spook Spann's Big Buck Properties farm, a farm near the Ohio River that has it all: crops, water, hardwoods, cover, and great genetics. Spook and I talk about a location where I'm going to hunt where he's been seeing some really good deer, and one in particular called Hook that is an older management buck.
What you'll do is you'll come in, we'll go down the road, and when you turn in, there's the big bean field, and right here is like about a 3-acre clover field right in front of the blind, and I had them, when they planted the beans, I had them leave that clover field.
Not long after we get settled in, we see a few does and one of the bucks we want to shoot.
It's one of our shears. It's one of our shears. That's a crook. Yeah, it's crook. Some lower toes come out from the groin. Okay. We're gonna lay them.
just when we think Hook is going to come in, he goes into the woods and disappears. Don and I are discussing what happened and why he left. We had a good win and we had the ozonics going. He just vanished. Rain has moved in for the last day. We decide to get ready and go to the blind early before it started to downpour. Feeling that once the rain stopped, deer would definitely be on their feet.
It's coming down. Hopefully, if it stops, these deer will be on their feet. That's our crazy horn buck.
In spite of it continuing to rain, the big management buck is coming into our set. In the back of my mind, I know this is not the buck we're after, but I also know we need to do the right thing for Spook's farm. Don and I decided we're going to shoot this buck if he gives us a shot.
I mean, you talk about a deer that needs to be killed, taken out of the herd. I mean, you know, not the deer we were after, but you know, sometimes you just got to do the right thing.
You know, a thing about a buck like this, man, look at that big old spike. Yep. He could gore fighting. This deer's big enough with that big old spike and these big old forks right here. He could gore a deer, you know, a good deer that you don't want killed.
Absolutely.
Too. So not only do you not want this buck breeding your does, but you don't want him fighting and bullying, you know, the other bucks on the farm because he could do some damage.
Early season can be a magical time to shoot a big mature buck, but can also be challenging if you don't time it right. In spite of several really tough days in both the bail blind and the tree stand in Nebraska, we were able to do a good thing from a deer management standpoint in Kentucky and harvest a 4.5-year-old cull buck on an incredible farm.